Everybody, what's going on? So today in this video we're going to talk about some baits, and these are not just any ordinary baits. These are actually the three baits that basically I learned how to bass fish with. Now I've made a video like this in the past, but didn't get very many views. I think it ended up not doing too well, but I thought, why not go ahead and come back and make another one. Now I grabbed these baits out of my tackle box and thought, why not go ahead and do a video on these. Now this summer I'll definitely be doing a challenge video with these baits. Wasn't able to this summer, but I will probably try to next summer or next spring, definitely. But these baits are the three first baits that I ever used. Two of them I bought myself. One of them I'm dropping on the floor. But this one here was my very first lure. My dad bought this many years ago, and it is the black and white Heddon Topwater Torpedo. Now this is like a precursor type bait of the Whopper Plopper. It's got the little spinning tail back here. Oops. It's got that little spinning tail back there that makes a lot of commotion on the water when you're just reeling it. But my favorite way of using it is just to pop it along very slowly, kind of like a little bug on top of the surface of the water. My first ever bass was caught with this, and I was hooked ever since. Caught about a 2.5 pounder on like my second cast with it, I think. Ton of fun to fish these, but this here was the very first lure I ever used. Kind of go into like a little backstory with that bait. My dad heard about these baits off of TV, and he wanted one, and he couldn't find them anywhere. We have 3 Walmarts in our local area, and he went over to the one in Indiana. Didn't find him there. Went to the one here in the town that we live in. Didn't find him there. He ended up having to go to a town that's east of us here, and he finally was able to find 2. Now that is one of the 2. Sadly, he lost the other one back, I think, 2 years ago. He casted it off. He forgot to flip his bell, and when he casted, it just snapped the line. But, you know, still have one of the original ones. This one here is the original one that I used. My first bass was caught on this bait, and I've caught tons of bass since. One of my former personal bests was on this bait, throwing it out just very slowly, kind of creeping it along the surface, and they come up and eat it like crazy. Basically how I started bass fishing, if you guys never heard that story, one day we was out bluegill fishing. I was using corn and night crawlers, and just couldn't catch a thing. They just weren't biting for some reason. My dad and my uncle were able to get 2 big baskets full, and I couldn't catch a single thing. I didn't catch any bluegill that whole day. I was really mad, and at that point I was just sitting in my chair kind of just watching them fish, watching them catch fish. And pretty soon my dad goes up to the truck, grabs one of them small ultralight spinning rods, and grabs one of these, puts it on a little snap swivel, and says, "Here, Michael, go over there on that bank where you see them fish splashing, cast it around there. When one eats it, when you see something splash on it, you pull back." So I was like, okay, it seems simple enough, whatever. Not catching anything. I'm bored. I'm annoyed. Why not? So I went over there, and these fish were busting on bugs and bluegill and all kinds of stuff. And that's now I see that. Back then, I just seen a bunch of fish splashing. So I go over there, and I'm like, okay, take it. I cast it out there, and I'm thinking, do I just reel it in or what? So I just sit there and I kind of move the rod tip a little bit, kind of bobble it along. And pretty soon I seen one come up and grab it and miss it. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. So I cast it right back out there, and he ate it. I mean, he engulfed that thing. And I set the hook and reeled him in at about 2.5 pounder. And I was like, wow, that was a lot of fun, And it's a lot of fun fighting them too when you first hook into a decent one, especially when you're used to catching, small 1.5-pound bluegill. It's a lot of fun to catch a 2-pound bass. So I was like, okay, cool. And I don't have to rebait my hook. That was one thing that I absolutely loved about fishing with lures at the time, was I didn't have to rebait my hook every time I caught one. So I cast it right back out there and was just sitting there bobbling it along and caught another one. I ended up catching 4 fish around probably 2.5 pounds each. And I had a ton of fun. And there for probably about 2.5 months, this was the only bait I'd throw. This was just it. That's all I would throw, was that bait right there. And it's actually still got the original hooks, but they are still pretty sharp. so I don't have to replace them quite yet. But yeah, I've caught tons of fish on that. That bait there is caught. I mean, Lord knows how many fish have been caught on this bait. My dad used to use it. I've used it. I still use it every once in a while. Wasn't able to use it a whole lot this year. I think I might have cast it around a few times during that in-depth episode, and that was about it. Yeah, awesome bait. I love that thing right there. It has a huge nostalgia place in my heart because it's the bait that started bass fishing for me, was this right here. So next, we have the first ever bait that I bought and used with my own money. So this bait was part of a little 4-pack deal that you can get at Walmart. I don't know if they still sell them, but it was Rebel Lure Company. And Rebel Lure Company is mainly famous for the Pop-R, and that's what I bought. Little miniature Pop-R. It's not the bigger one. It's not the jumbo size. It's not the teeny tiny one, but it's just like a little middle size, and it's perfect size for bass to eat. Little feathered treble hook there. Cast it out there one day, and was sitting there, and I was just popping it along, and I noticed how it would make a little bloop sound, and that's how I started using it. I just made it to where it would make that noise, and I would catch fish, and I caught a crap load of fish on this thing, and it has been a fish catcher ever since I bought it, and I like it a lot. I've used it a ton. You guys can see the paint's kind of chipped off the head where the bass have been eating it head first. They love these little poppers like this, and I've used it quite a bit, and I've caught quite a few fish. The next bait, now this, you guys can hear a little rattle in it, but this was the first ever bait that I used that wasn't a topwater bait. Now, some of you guys may or may not know, but for like the first probably half a year of my bass fishing career was topwater fishing only. That's all I fished. I didn't fish anything other than topwater, and I caught a crap load of fish. Like, it was stupid the amount of fish I was catching. So when I couldn't get him to bite topwater, but I could still see him busting on the banks, I decided why not try this little miniature round bill crankbait. So I was like, why not? Maybe I'll catch something. I cast it out there, hit the water, and I started reeling. And pretty soon it just got heavy, and I kind of pulled back a little bit. 6-pound mono on a Zebco slingshot spinning rod, and just kind of sitting there reeling it. And all of a sudden it got heavy, and I kind of pulled back, and it started fighting. I was like, oh crap, that's a fish. And the first day I ever used it, I was able to catch 15 fish in a matter of probably around 20 minutes. And that's about how long it took me to catch those fish with this little bait. It was pretty much almost every other cast that I would make. I would cast out there, reel it up, and I would either lose the fish or I would catch the fish. I mean, I'd say, thinking back, I mean, it's been about 4 years now. I'd say probably at least 70% of the fish that bit it I caught. But there was a ton that I lost also, and I wish I would have caught them all, because who knows how many I would have caught if I caught every one I hooked. But that little bait right there, the little Teeny R crankbait by Rebel, one of my favorite little baits. It's got a special little place in my heart because it's pretty much the first time I was ever able to put a pattern together. Because when I was looking along the bank, when I would see the bass blow up on the banks, I would look on the bank, and there'd be little bitty pieces like red flakes and like claws and pinchers and stuff of crawfish. And I started looking through my tackle box, and this was pretty much the only crawfish imitator that I had. I didn't have jigs, I didn't have like football jigs and little, I didn't have like little mud bugs. I think that there would have killed it back then. But I didn't have that kind of stuff. All I had was this little guy right here, just cranking it along, and all of a sudden it'd get heavy. I wouldn't ever really feel the bite. I would just kind of feel it just get heavy, and I'd set the hook, and there'd be a fish there. But that's kind of the first time I ever really put a big pattern together and was able to capitalize on it and catch a bunch of fish, was throwing this little bitty Teeny R crankbait by Rebel, and it smoked the fish. I think I ended up catching 14, I caught 15. I caught 14 in this one little area, probably maybe 20 yards long. And then my dad, I called him up, and I was like, hey, I'm catching the crap out of fish. You want to come down here and fish? And he goes, no, you go ahead and stay down there and fish by yourself. You can catch them if you want to. And I was like, all right. So I caught a bunch of them and decided to go back up there where he was at, see what he was throwing, see if he caught any. And he was saying that he wasn't catching nothing. So I was like, okay, watch this. I cast it out there, hits the water, flip my bail, start reeling. Pretty soon it got heavy and I caught a fish right in front of him, right where he'd been casting for like 20 minutes, 30 minutes. I casted right over there and caught a fish instantly. And he was like, well, evidently he needs to buy one. That's what he said. Evidently I need to buy one. And the sad thing is I've never been able to find these in the right size and in the right color. I've been able to find crankbaits like this size, but not in the right color. I've been able to find crankbaits in that color, but they're like 1.5 size, and that's not the size I want. I want one like this. Now, obviously, I have one, but I want more because they really do catch fish. One of these days, soon in the spring or summer, I will get all 3 of them baits out, and I will probably do pretty good on some bass. The only thing that sucks about these baits here is you pretty much have to throw them with spinning rod. You can't throw those with bait caster, but that'll mean just a little bit extra fighting and stuff like that. So also, I'm going to be filming some fishing / in-depth episodes this weekend, since this weekend is the last weekend of muzzleloader and gun season here in Illinois. I'm going to film a video on this jig right here, I think. Excuse me. And I may film an in-depth episode on this little crankbait. I kind of want to now that I've been messing with it a little bit. But if there's any suggestions that you guys want me to do as far as fishing / in-depth episodes, I'm going to try to do the Alabama rig video. I don't know if I'll get that video made or not. But I'm going to try to make quite a few different videos this weekend. Because I only have 3 days, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, that I'm going to be able to really go out and try to catch some fish and try to get some videos made. Because once that ends, I'm going to be getting on the deer, hopefully. Haven't been able to get any deer close enough for a shot quite yet. But hopefully I will. But Alabama rig video may be out sometime this weekend. If it's not, then it probably will end up having to wait until after the cold weather and probably end up having to wait till spring. I don't know. But yeah, so thank you guys for watching. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. If you want to, down below in the comments, if you guys have even made it back into this video this far, comment down below what you caught your very first bass on. I caught my first bass, like I showed you, on this little head and topwater torpedo. So you guys go down there in the comments and show what you caught your very first bass on. So thank you guys for watching once again.